Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. And when I saw we were going to have Bernie Mullin back today, I go, Yahoo! He is the founder and chairman of the Aspire Group. He's the author of Reimagining America's Dream. Bernie is an internationally acclaimed management and marketing consultant with over 30 years of experience as a chief executive in iconic organizations, professional sports, college athletics, and the entertainment world as well. He does have a website. Bernie J. Mullin, Mullin.com is the website. You can check that out and certainly get a copy of his book. I think you'll find it to be pretty inspiring. Reimagining America's Dream. We had a picture of that on the screen. So, Dr. Mullin, good to see you again, friend. How are you?
Harry, good morning. Great to see you. Thank you so much for having me on.
You bet. Where are you? Where are we Skyping you in from?
I'm in Denver, Colorado, in my home in the Cherry Creek area of Denver, Colorado.
Got a lot of snow outside?
No, we don't. We've had a warm week. It's supposed to snow tomorrow.
Oh.
And my wife and I are jumping on a plane and going to Hawaii for 9 days. So we're missing. We planned this one pretty well, Perry. We're going to be walking barefoot on the beach in 80 degrees, and everybody here is going to be shoveling snow as usual.
Okay. Well, listen, wave at us when you fly over, okay? Good to see you. Thanks for your time. You know, a lot to talk to you about. Let me just get a 30,000-foot view question from you. What do you think of the first 2 weeks of the new administration?
Well, I think it's interesting. You know, I think, as you know, Perry, I'm independent. I'm neither right nor left. I try and be a good listener and listen to understand. And I think, you know, the immediate reaction from so many people on the left has been to scream and holler. Whereas when I look at it, I go, you know, I admire people who have a degree in GSD. And the polite way to say that is getting stuff done. And my goodness, President Trump certainly has a degree in GSD. And he certainly has a degree in stirring things up and getting people riled up, which I think sometimes is absolutely necessary to get stuff done. And you have to look at his ulterior motive. Greenland, precious metals. You know, it's not about us owning Greenland. It's building a relationship, protecting Greenland, getting closer to Greenland, and getting precious metals. It's setting China back on its feet and its aggression, and you know, getting China to think about things other than taking over Taiwan. And I could go on, but that's what I see. And I end up being, I think, the reasonable voice of saying to people, calm down and deal with the centrality of the issue. So I'm excited for the future. Perry is a long, rambling answer to what do I think's gone on in the last couple of weeks. An amazing amount of energy. It's certainly a huge contrast to our previous president, who sadly at the end was pretty near invisible.
Well, I think you coined a new phrase there, Bernie, having a PhD in GSD.
Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. You know, the last time we talked, look, the shift that is taking place is breathtaking in so many ways. So many people run on doing what President Trump is doing, and they never got it done. He's just flat out pedal to the metal, getting a lot of things done. But one of the things, philosophically, there's a lot of differences, the left and the right and all that. But the one thing that seemed to bother me that fell through the cracks over the last 4 years was the trust that people had in agencies, in government, even in the medical community, and the list can go on and on and on. Do you think that can be restored?
I think it can be restored, but, you know, it's interesting. Perry, I've been spending the last month, I'm doing a TEDx talk in Lubbock, Texas, for Texas Tech University. And the topic they wanted me to talk about, because I pitched to them winning, you know, the idea of what does winning mean to you? And it's evolved into collaboration. And I think it's really central to the question you're asking. And funnily enough, I'm starting off with the question of winning. So 100 people in a TEDx talk in the audience, and you say to them, for me to win, do you have to lose?
What's that?
You know, what would your listeners, how would they answer that? I'd love to see them feed back to you, Perry. What's their answer on that? And, you know, do we have to have a world where for me to win, you have to lose? Or can we truly have a win-win world? And the premise to wrap around your question is that in a world of AI, of bioscience and climate change, whether people agree with that there's climate change or not, but in a world that's going to be driven more and more by those issues and the danger of AI taking over the world and bioscience. So in the research that I've done for this TEDx talk, it's fascinating. Within the next 2 or 3 years, wealthy people are going to go to a doctor, and what they're going to get is they're going to be scanned when they walk in. They'll be completely body scanned, and the body scan will tell them what's wrong with the body. And the body and the AI in that body scan is going to tell the doctor what questions to ask. It's going to listen to your voice as the patient and then tell you what the prescription is going to be. That's where it's going. And for the general public, 5 to 10 years from now. And, you look at that and go, wow, that's a little scary. But you go, wow, that's amazing. So what's the message in my TEDx talk? It's going to be, we have to learn a new set of skills to survive the future for society, for each and every one of us, to have a quality life. And those skills start with listening, and they start with collaboration. And there's a video we're going to shoot next week, and it's my grandkids and my grandkids' friends. And I call it the Juan and Maria story. And it doesn't have to be a Juan and Maria story, but it's my grandkids, Grace and James, will tug a war, and they'll do a tug of war with a rope with a knot, and they'll get 25 minutes tug of war, 25 cents every time they pull the knot over the line in front of their feet. And they will go at it and compete. And then Juan and Maria, who were brought up in a different culture, will do the exact same thing. And they've got 5 minutes, 25 cents each time they pull the knot in that tug-of-war rope over the line in front of their feet. But Juan and Maria instead will go boom, 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 backwards and forwards. And my grandkids will make $1.25 each, and Juan and Maria will make $20 each. That I think is the future of the world. How do we get people to stop, and I played semi-professional soccer in England. I had 3 guys on the British Army SAS team. They're the SWAT team guys. These are the guys that were literally shot out of a submarine, in the torpedo silos with scuba gear on, a mile or 2 off the Falkland Islands, the Malvinas, as the Argentinians call it. And they were undercover for a couple of weeks, setting up before the British Navy arrived, and they took back the Malvinas after the Argentinas took control of it. These were lethal killers, Perry. They were trained to kill, and they were my teammates. And I passed to them, and they passed to me, and I hugged when we scored goals and we won games. We went out, there was one other college student and myself at the time on the team, and we went out on a Friday night before we had a road trip, and we went into a bar with them, and these guys deliberately caused fights in a bar. They just went out of the way to beat people up. I'm like, they're despicable people. But I learned to work with them as a teammate, not be proud of them, and then tell them, the next time, hey, you and Bill want to go out on a Friday night with us? Oh, no, we got way too much studying to do. We got reports we got to write. We didn't go near them. We go to a movie theater and watch a movie. And it's not to besmirch the British SAS group. They were trained killers, but in the context of playing on the same team, how do we make it work? And in the context of having that separation. And so you learn to get along with people that you don't like, you don't have the same philosophy with, for the expedience of winning the game in that particular case. So how do we stop people calling them Hitler and fascist and deplorables? and a similar set of nasty labels to the people who are on the extreme left. But that, no one's talking about woke and their pronouns today, 2 weeks into Trump's presidency. But that to me, so I guess my answer to your question, Perry, is I think it can be done, but I think it's awfully difficult, and I think it takes a commitment that I'm playing on a team, and just because I don't like you doesn't mean to say I'm not going to pass you the ball if you're the best alternative for me to pass to.
That is absolutely fascinating, Dr. Mullin. But I guess question that comes out of that is retraining of our thinking, a broader understanding and perspective that we're on the same team, so to speak. But the question that comes out of this is we depolarize the problem. The American culture has become so polarized. How do we eliminate that, or can we?
Yeah, well, I think we can, and it means we have to talk to each other. We have to talk to each other. I'll give you a good example. This TEDx talk that I'm doing in Lubbock, Texas, is organized by a junior who is of Muslim descent, and Muhammad. I don't think most people understand that the firstborn son of every Muslim family needs to be named Muhammad. And so, for example, in my home country of England, the #1 most popular name for a boy in Britain last year has been the same as it has been for the last 5 or 6 years. It's Muhammad. And so how do you learn about the people who are different from you? And it starts with discussion, getting close and discussing. I was blessed when I was at the NBA in 2000 to 2004, and I witnessed out of my window of my office, which was at 50th and 5th, 3 miles north of the World Trade Center. I saw the damage the first plane had done, which had happened right before I got to my office that Tuesday morning. Bright, clear, not a cloud in the sky, September day. And I saw the second plane hit. I saw the explosion from the north, plane hit from the south, but I saw all the fire. And I saw both tires fall. And my driver that I had at the NBA, and I hate to sound so privileged, but I had a limousine driver anytime I went to the airport or to meetings as a senior executive at the NBA. And my driver was Muslim. And he had people put burning crosses in his yard and all kinds of stuff after 9/11. And Issa Dowda was a great source to me of, teach me about the Muslim faith. What do you believe? What's a jihad? And everybody thought jihad is kill Christians, kill people who are not Muslim and the infidels. And it was not that at all. He talked about his brother who had died, and Issa's jihad was to send money every month to his sister-in-law who had 3 kids in Africa, where he was born, and keep the family alive. And so, you realize that the Muslim faith is a great faith with great people, but the problem is there are people who have hijacked the faith, and they're not Muslims. They are hypocrites, and they are not following the principles of their faith. But yet we are not educated enough to realize that. So we shouldn't hate Muslims. We should hate those people that use the Muslim faith as a cover to be despicable terrorists. Hamas in Gaza.
Don't you almost have to have a supernatural sense of discernment between the two?
Well, I think, I mean, you said it, Perry, and it's a different way of thinking. And a lot of people are not ready for that, right now. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in Liverpool, and England, which was a seaport and a very low income area. And I, 3 generations before me, 3 of my grandparents are Irish. My mother's father was of Scottish descent, so Scotch-Irish. And we were Catholic. And, one of our neighbors was Protestant in Northern Ireland and very bigoted. And, and that was from our perspective. Maybe she wasn't as bigoted as we were, but I think we were love everybody, accept everybody kind of family, is how I remember it and how I believe and look at myself. So I think I can look at someone else, see the differences, see their perspective on the world, and say, let's do what we did. When I moved to the United States 52 years ago, we agreed to disagree. And let's at least start there. You have a different perspective from me. I respect your perspective. It's not how I think. It's not how I'm going to lead my life. You have the right to lead your life on that perspective, as long as you don't hurt me. And as long as you don't do something that's against the best interest of this country and that I'm willing to accept and live and let live, as long as you live and let me live. And my problem with the left-wing liberals is they believe in free speech today, whereas, when I got here 52 years ago, it was, oh, free speech. Okay, all right, I get free speech to a point. To the point. And the example I give is the Nazi Party in Chicago wanted to have a march in Skokie, Illinois, not in Grant Park in downtown Chicago, but in Skokie, Illinois. Do you know why they wanted to go in Skokie, Illinois, Perry?
I have no idea.
It had more Holocaust survivors than any other suburb in the Midwest. They wanted to march to stick it to all of the Jews in the area, particularly the Holocaust survivors, and bring back the dreadful memories of Auschwitz and everything. I mean, completely wrong. And the ACLU fought for their right to have that parade in Skokie, Illinois. Well, they shouldn't have. Put them in Grant Park, put up a sign, Nazi Party rally. You don't like the Nazi Party, don't come. Don't be there. But don't allow them to stick it to people who have suffered so much under that ideology. And that, I found it strange. I found it great that America respects the individual voice, but not to the point of the detriment of the community. And fast forward now 52 years later, we don't even do that. Today's left-wing liberals believe in free speech as long as you're saying what I want to hear. That's not right.
Yeah. Let me barge in here, Dr. Mullin. I got to take a quick break. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, he does have a website, Bernie J. Mullin, MULLIN.com. There's the picture of the landing page, Dr. Mullin there, and then check out his book, Reimagining America's Dream. We'll talk to him about that coming back. Okay, welcome back, and such an honor to have back with us today Dr. Bernie Mullin. He's the founder and chairman of the Aspire Group, the author of a fascinating book. We want to talk to him a little bit about that, Reimagining America's Dream. And there's a picture of the cover of the book. Dr. Mullin, before I go to the book, looking back on what you just shared with us, I think a lot of people really deep down inside want America to become what you talk about. I think there is a genuine yearning. I was raised in a time, I think, in America where we lived and let live. I mean, we agreed to disagree agreeably. There was that time. There was post-war. A lot of crazy things were going on. You know, we had the Vietnam things and all that. But at the end of the day, there was a sense of innocence for America that was pure. But we've lost that. And I don't know if there is a defining moment where we lost it. Do you have any idea?
I don't know. I think it's probably 10 years ago. You know, and it's, I don't remember if at the last time, Perry, I was on, I told you the story about was in North Carolina with friends. They a member of a beautiful tennis club and lovely restaurant, and we had dinner with this guy who was a real estate attorney. And basically, we started talking about this idea of, how can we learn to listen, to understand, and accept other people? And basically, he was extreme left, and his message was, well, you can't, because all the hate is on the right side. It's the MAGA and it's this, that, and the other. And I said, so there's no hate on the left side? He goes, no. I said, so Hillary calling Trump's supporters deplorables was not hate? And he goes, no, it's true. I mean, so you've got people that feel that way, believe that way, and they've convinced themselves they're right. And I would say one of the big catalysts, Perry, is social media. And social media is older than 10 years, but social media has allowed people to climb into caves that have become echo chambers and reinforce people's thinking that they think that's the universe of the world when it isn't, and they think that they're right when they aren't.
That's a great answer. You've got to process that. Before I run out of time, I do want to come to your book, Dr. Mullin, before you run off to Hawaii and sit on the beach. What do you want people to get from your book? What's the takeaway?
Well, let me put it in context. First thing this morning, I had a board call. I serve on the board of Sport at the Service of Humanity. And this kind of speaks to where my thinking is. It's an initiative that came from Pope Francis, and it's an ecumenical and non-faith movement. In 2016, we had 500 people, the world's leaders. We had Thomas Bach, head of the IOC. We had Utant, head of the United Nations. And we had Pope Francis. And we had sports leaders. And we had, political leaders from all over the world. A mufti and the top rabbi from the Maccabee Games, all together about how can sport be a catalyst to bring people together in peace, bring families together with their kids, and the programs teach values. And we have several initiatives around the world that board is still doing. And the CEO who would work for me, and I put him in that position, Philip said to me, he said, Bernie, I forgot to give you the feedback on the book. Yeah, and he said, sales were phenomenal to start with. We thought that during the presidential election, they would really continue to elevate, but they slowed down. And he said, you know what I think the reason why they slowed down is? And I said, no, I'd really be appreciative to get your thoughts. He said, because it's common sense. And he said, common sense is not what the world wants to hear right now. And I think that there's people that don't like President Trump will argue that what he's doing is not common sense. But I would argue what he is doing is common sense. Control the border. I did a podcast with a sheriff, 5-star sheriff, from one of the nicer suburbs of Denver recently, with victim advocates and the assistant district attorney. And he said to me, Bernie, I was at Quantico for 3 months. Countries all over the world, law enforcement officers. Which countries have the lowest crime rates? I said, I don't know. He said, the ones that enforce the law. That's common sense. It's common sense. But the problem with common sense is it's not common. And I think, Perry, you're right. We've lost the idea to sit there and say, we need to teach, the book is about how do we teach our kids grit? And the great book about grit. And what's grit? Fall down 9 times, get up 10. Winston Churchill, It shall not defeat me. It starts with how we teach our kids, and we have to teach our kids how to collaborate, how to come together. The discussion with Mohammed, who has put this TEDx talk together in Lubbock yesterday, was about a class that he took with a professor that divided them into two teams and said one team will win the higher grade. Why divide the class? Yeah, have competition, but have competition where they can all win. Why not use the competition to incent them to work harder, put more energy and effort into the semester project, but both of them can get A+.
What are we to do, Dr. Mullin, when nonsense versus common sense, when nonsense becomes a religion?
Yeah, well, we call it out. We call it out. We don't have to sit there and say nothing. And that's what Trump has done. You know, like I said, I didn't vote for Trump. I'm not a Trump fan, but I am a fan of what he's trying to do. And I'm not a fan of the extremism on some of the things, you know, like we will take over Gaza. But we will take over Gaza is not his end game. His end game is you neighbor state. I mean, we have to be brutally real. Mm-hmm. Brutally real. I'll give you an example of brutally real. My best friend here in Denver was my best man. He's an English guy. And one of the reasons he's a best friend is because he's not afraid to tell me when I'm full of baloney. The first job I got when I was a junior, I got a scholarship for British Leyland Motor Corporation. Austin Morris, Jag, Rover, Rolls-Royce, MG, all of those cars. I worked for VP. He said, I hate college students. I said, oh, wow. Sorry, why? He said, because you believe your own BS. Don't believe your own BS. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to tell people, and we've got to call them out, confront them. You are believing a bunch of BS, whether it's the transgender issue, whether it's the diversity, equity, and inclusion issue, which I am behind as a tiebreaker. So in my company, hire people who are qualified for the job. And if you have people who are relatively equal, give preference to someone in a minority situation to try and redress the balance of 400 years of somewhat discrimination or limitation to people with minorities who haven't had those opportunities. So call out the BS. You know, you're not speaking the truth. You are speaking nonsense. Boys are boys, girls are girls, transgender people. My heart goes out to anybody who has gender dysphoria. I can't imagine what that would be like. I can't imagine in my male body to feel like a woman. It's not who I am, thank goodness. But that doesn't mean to say I look down on anybody who's transgender. I want to love them in a Christian way as my brother and sister. And how do we help them have the kind of quality life they want to have? Mm. And it's not guys playing girls' sports. That's not the answer. That's nonsense. And to stop the baloney of someone like me saying that and then having people label me as homophobic or misogynist or whatever the garbage, you've got to have the courage of your conviction to go, no, I don't have a racial bone in my body. I'm an old, white, straight guy, but I'm not prejudiced, you know. And if you look at the history of me as a CEO of the professional sports teams I've run, the athletic departments I've run, my 16 years at my company, we set a goal to be 50% of our company diverse, but we weren't going to put anybody in a job which they weren't qualified for, because that's the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Right. And it's not fair. Yeah. Not fair. So work harder to find a good minority candidate that has the qualifications that can do the job and excel. Good. And it's hard work, Perry.
Yeah. Boy, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Well, listen, I'm out of time. Thank you, Dr. Mullin. We look forward to more visits. Thank you for your time. We value it. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, I think you'll enjoy reading his book, Reimagining America's Dream. There's a picture of the cover of the book available online. Dr. Mullin does have a website, Bernie J. Mullin, MULLIN.com. There's a picture of his landing page. Dr. Mullin, thank you for your time. God bless you, friend, and enjoy the beach.
Well, thank you so much. Last thing quickly, we believe in calling everybody in America pals. We're all brothers and sisters, and PAL stands for peace and love. Let's start to do that and recognize that. So you're my pal. I'm your pal. Everybody that's listening is a pal.
You're my pal, and thank you for your new coin phrase, PhD and GSD. See you later.